Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 183 of the Prancing Pony Podcast, where the swords of our enemies have been placed beneath our feet.
Well, now hang on. We're not dead yet. Come on.
We're only mostly
We're not dead!
We
feel fine.
I feel better.
But folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room.
Mm-hmm.
You know I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the Man of the West, about whom songs will be sung, Alan Sisto.
Through L.A., over road and freeway where the traffic grows, the west wind comes walking, and around the smog it blows. Something like that, anyway.
That's beautiful.
It is, isn't it? Well, I mean, as far as a song about smog can go.
It's well-worded.
Thank you, sir. I try. Don't ask me to do another couplet. That's all. That's as much as you're going to get out of me, I promise. So
it is enough.
All right. Today we're going to be talking about the second half of the departure of Boromir, which is, of course, the first chapter in Book 3 of Lord of the Rings. This is where we listen to a lovely eulogy in song and watch as Aragorn finds his new purpose.
That's right. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, well, first of all, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we have a lot of fun along the way. So we hope you're ready to laugh, and we're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, it's time for a segment we're going to see a lot this season. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Middle-earth.
All right. Well, last week we talked about interlacing, and we're going to be seeing that explicitly later on. But for now, we're going to do a little bit of our own interlacing, and we're going to tell you what's going on with two other storylines. One of these storylines we're not going to officially see until next season.
Yeah.
And the other, well, we're going to see it in the next chapter. So first of all, let's talk about the next season one. This is going to be a little visit to our two absent friends, Frodo and Sam. Now, the Tale of Years in the appendices tells us that Frodo and Samwise enter the eastern Aemon Muil, so there's that. But in Tolkien's scheme, which is cited by Hammond and Skull in Lord of the Rings, A Reader's Companion, in that we learn a little bit more about what's happening today, which is February 26th. In the story, I mean. And here's what Tolkien says in the scheme. Frodo and Sam first night in Aemon Muil. Gollum picks up trail of Frodo and Sam in Aemon Muil and dogs them. Now tomorrow, February 27th, as the three hunters are on the chase, we read that second day and night wandering in Aemon Muil along southeast edge. They become aware of Gollum. And of course, the next day is when Book 4 picks them up, which is when we join them next September in Season 6.
Next chapter, but in 2 weeks, since the chapter's so long, we're going to meet somebody that we've long looked forward to meeting here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and that's Éomer. But what is he doing right now? Well, when we get to his arrival, he's going to tell Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli that scouts warned me of the orc host coming down out of the east wall 4 nights ago, and among them they reported that some bore the white badges of Saruman. So suspecting what I most fear, a league between Orthanc and the Dark Tower, I led forth my Ered, men of my own household, and we overtook the orcs at nightfall 2 days ago, near to the borders of the Entwood. There we surrounded them and gave battle yesterday at dawn. 15 of my men I lost, and 12 horses, alas, for the orcs were greater in number than we counted on. Others joined them, coming out of the east across the great river. Their trail is plain to see a little north of this spot. And others too came out of the forest, great orcs, who also bore the white hand of Isengard. That kind is stronger and more fell than all others.
Okay, so when he says that, he's talking about something that happened 4 nights ago. And when does he say that? Well, 4 days from now. In other words, all this is happening today.
That's how it works.
As Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli are preparing Boromir's body for a boat burial, scouts are telling Éomer about orcs coming down from the east wall of Rohan. Now, it was a tough challenge for Tolkien getting all these chronologies right, by the way. He actually told Christopher in letter number 85, which was written in October 1944, He said, I have been struggling with the dislocated chronology of the ring, which has proved most vexatious, and has not only interfered with other more urgent and duller duties, but has stopped me getting on. I think I have solved it all at last by small map alterations, and by inserting an extra day's Entmoot. Well, the Ents won't mind. Being able to take their time.
That's true. Woohoo, an extra day of moot.
And extra days into Trotter's chase and Frodo's journey. Well, of course, what was extra days into Trotter's chase turned into extra days into the chase of the three hunters, and the delay of their encounter with Éomer. So the timelines all ended up working out just fine.
Yes, they did. And I'm going to find a way to get the word vexatious into my vocabulary on a daily basis now.
I feel like I should be using that word with my son more often.
With your son? Wow. Okay, man.
Well, that was Tolkien using it with his son. I mean,
Well, that's true, but he wasn't using it to describe his son. Son, you have been most vexatious.
No, I don't mean using it to describe my son. I mean,
I thought you were. I thought you were talking about your parenting.
I mean, using that word when talking to my son, not about my son.
Building his vocabulary, not destroying his self-esteem. Good.
Right, exactly. I mean, if I can do both, hey,
Hey, man, that is like the ultimate.
That's a win, right?
That's your trifecta right there.
No, of course not.
All right. Well, we see that once more in Scheme, as cited by Hammond and Skull, on February 26th, scouts report descent of orcs out of Emyn Muil to Éomer. But Éomer hesitates to disobey King, who has ordered him to go to Eastfold and gather his men for defense of Edoras. Then on February 27th, tomorrow, news reaches Edoras that orcs are crossing Rohan. Hama, Éomer's friend, sends message to Eastfold, Éomer's home, warning Éomer of King's displeasure, but counseling him to ride against the orcs. Éomer decides to disobey King and sets out with his Éored about midnight, 27th to 28th, taking the direct northern route.
And there's your update on Frodo and Sam, and on Éomer as he heads towards a chance encounter, if chance you call it, with Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli in just a few days' time. But for now, folks, I think it's time for us to return to Aragorn and Legolas as they sing a somber farewell to Boromir. Alan?
Well, thankfully, we're going to follow Gimli's example and not actually sing.
That's right.
But we will read, and I'm going to start just exactly where we left off the last time.
All right.
Now they laid Boromir in the middle of the boat that was to bear him away. The gray hood and elven cloak they folded and placed beneath his head. They combed his long dark hair and arrayed it upon his shoulders. The golden belt of Lorien gleamed about his waist. His helm they set beside him, and across his lap they laid the cloven horn and the hilt and shards of his sword. Beneath his feet they put the swords of his enemies. Then, fastening the prow to the stern of the other boat, they drew him out into the water. They rowed sadly along the shore, and turning into the swift-running channel, they passed the green sward of Parth Galen. The steep sides of Tol Brandir were glowing. It was now mid-afternoon. As they went south, the fume of Rauros rose and shimmered before them, a haze of gold. The rush and thunder of the falls shook the windless air. Sorrowfully, they cast loose the funeral boat. There Boromir lay, restful, peaceful, gliding upon the bosom of the flowing water. The stream took him, while they held their own boat back with their paddles. He floated by them, and slowly his boat departed, waning to a dark spot against the golden light, and then suddenly it vanished. Rauros roared on, unchanging. The river had taken Boromir, son of Denethor, and he was not seen again in Minas Tirith, standing as he used to stand upon the white tower in the morning. But in Gondor, in after days, it long was said that the elven boat rode the falls and the foaming pool, and bore him down through Osgiliath, and past the many mouths of Anduin, out into the great sea at night under the stars. I'm tearing up, man. That is a passage, isn't it?
It's a gorgeous passage. Yeah.
It really is.
It's a beautiful farewell to Boromir, who deserves it, for the record. Boromir is a hero, folks. I acknowledge it.
Uh-huh.
So let's go back and take a look at what all has happened here. So first of all, they lay the bier with Boromir's body in the boat, fold the hood and the elven cloak, place them like a pillow, comb his hair.
Yeah, it's so touching.
I mean, it's a funeral. They're treating his body they're preparing his body,
Yeah, this is properly done.
The golden belt of Lorien is gleaming about his waist, which is gorgeous. A little touch of fairy enchantment there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually noticing, and I didn't notice this until I read it out loud, as so often happens, how many times he uses alliteration in this passage. Boromir, boat, bear.
Yeah.
The golden belt gleamed. The helm beside him. Then there were several others.
Horn and hilt and shards of a sword.
Sadly, swift running, sword, steep sides. And then Rauros rose. I loved that. And then later Rauros roared.
Yeah.
And we just get a lot of these little bits. It's another way that Tolkien's words just sort of, they just embed themselves in you.
It's that music, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's that musicality that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Even Many Mouths, the Many Mouths of Anduin, which is just, there's something so musical in the way these phrases are put together. And man, it is beautiful. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, going back to where we left off there, of course, you got the helm, like you mentioned, the cloven horn, the swords of his enemies beneath his feet. This is a classic ship burial, isn't it?
It is. It's such a Germanic thing, surrounded by the trophies
Yeah.
of his victories. Now, last week we talked about this kind of ship burial a little bit. We mentioned the funeral of Shield Shaving in Beowulf, and we said we'd come back and look at it again here. Well, here we are. Now, there are a lot of translations of Beowulf that we could pull from, but I think folks by now probably expect us to pull from Tolkien's translation, which we love.
As a general rule, yeah.
It's thematically appropriate. So I'm going to read just a little bit of that, starting at line 27.
Okay.
They laid then their beloved king, giver of rings, in the bosom of the ship, in glory by the mast. There were many precious things and treasures brought from regions far away, nor have I heard tell that men ever in more seemly wise arrayed a boat with weapons of war and harness of battle. On his lap lay treasures heaped that now must go with him, far into the dominion of the sea.
Wow. Yeah. On his lap lay treasures heaped.
And think about how much that mirrors what happens here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when we get to something we'll talk about in just a moment, what ultimately happens to the boat, right?
That's true, right? I mean, the treasures brought from regions far away, the weapons of war, the harness of battle, the treasures on his lap, and then, yeah, like you said, what we'll discuss in a bit. So they tow him out into the river and they head south and they pass the Green Sward, right? They pass Parth Galen.
Yeah.
And I just love the visuals of this scene. You get the green of the grassy area of Parth Galen. You get the glowing golden sides of Tol Brandir.
Yeah.
The haze of gold of the waterfall in the late afternoon, and the sound.
I love the phrase, the fume of Rauros. I love that. I mean, fume, you tend to think of fume as describing something gaseous, right? But this is describing like a spray of water.
Right.
And it's a really, really cool image. You can see it sort of spraying up and shimmering in the air. Yeah.
You really can.
So then they cut loose the boat and they watch as Boromir sails away.
Yeah.
There's beautiful language about his passing. I think what I love the most about this passage is there's this gentle motion of every sentence, right? The stream takes him.
Yeah.
They're holding their own boat back. So there's implied motion there. If they were to not hold it back, they would be going with him. We talk about him floating. We talk about his boat departing. All this language of motion. And then suddenly the boat vanishes and Rauros roared on unchanging. It's like the motion stops.
Yes.
Motion, 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 and then stillness. And there's something so serene and beautiful and tranquil about that description.
Yeah.
And then we get the some have said, right? After days it long was said.
Oh, I'll always love the some have said. Yeah.
Yeah, about how they said that the elven boat rode the falls and the foaming pool, and they went down the river out to sea at night under the stars, which of course is an image I love.
Oh, always under the stars.
Now, what do you think? Do you believe this? It was said?
I do. And I believe it mostly because of what we're going to see with Faramir. And because Sean likes to find any excuse to bring Eärendil into an episode, I like to find ways to reference Faramir, who's, of course, my favorite character in The Lord of the Rings. So this is a perfect time, frankly, to preview this passage from Book 4, Chapter 5, The Window on the West.
I think so.
This way, if, Sean, you get to read this next season, I'll still have had a chance myself.
Okay, I'll allow it.
Faramir turned to Frodo again. You ask, how do I know that the son of Denethor is dead? Tidings of death have many wings. Night oft brings news to near kindred, 'tis said. Boromir was my brother. A shadow of sorrow passed over his face. Do you remember aught of special mark that the Lord Boromir bore with him among his gear? Frodo thought for a moment, fearing some further trap, and wondering how this debate would turn in the end. He had hardly saved the ring from the proud grasp of Boromir, and how he would fare now among so many men, warlike and strong, he did not know. Yet he felt in his heart that Faramir, though he was much like his brother in looks, was a man less self-regarding, both sterner and wiser. I remember that Boromir bore a horn, he said at last. You remember well, and as one who has in truth seen him, said Faramir. Then maybe you can see it in your mind's eye, a great horn of the wild ox of the east, bound with silver and written with ancient characters. That horn the eldest son of our house has borne for many generations, and it is said that if it be blown at need anywhere within the bounds of Gondor, as the realm was of old, its voice will not pass unheeded. 5 days ere I set out on this venture, 11 days ago at about this hour of the day, I heard the blowing of that horn. From the northward it seemed, but dim, as if it were but an echo in the mind. A boding of ill we thought it, my father and I, for no tidings had we heard of Boromir since he went away, and no watcher on our borders had seen him pass. And on the third night after, another and a stranger thing befell me. I sat at night by the waters of Anduin, in the grey dark under the young, pale moon, watching the ever-moving stream, and the sad reeds were rustling. So do we ever watch the shores nigh Osgiliath, which our enemies now partly hold, and issue from it to harry our lands. But that night all the world slept at the midnight hour. Then I saw, or it seemed that I saw, a boat floating on the water, glimmering grey, a small boat of a strange fashion, with a high prow, and there was none to row or steer it. An awe fell on me, for a pale light was round it. But I rose and went to the bank and began to walk out into the stream, for I was drawn towards it. Then the boat turned towards me, and stayed its pace, and floated slowly by within my hand's reach. Yet I durst not handle it. It waded deep, as if it were heavily burdened, and it seemed to me, as it passed under my gaze, that it was almost filled with clear water, from which came the light, and lapped in the water a warrior lay asleep. A broken sword was on his knee. I saw many wounds on him. It was Boromir, my brother, dead. I knew his gear, his sword, his beloved face. One thing only I missed, his horn. One thing only I knew not, a fair belt, as it were of linked golden leaves about his waist. Boromir, I cried, where is thy horn? Whither goest thou? O Boromir! But he was gone. The boat turned into the stream, and passed glimmering into the night. Dreamlike it was, and yet no dream, for there was no waking, and I do not doubt that he is dead, and has passed down the river to the sea. And I love that passage. I love Faramir, and I'm just starting to cry. We'll save most of the discussion for it when we actually get next season.
I want to discuss that so much. I know we have to wait till next season. We've got too much to discuss.
But we can talk a little bit about it because it's relevant to the funeral here of Boromir.
Yeah, it's relevant to what ultimately happens to the boat and the truth of the "it was said."
Yes.
I think Faramir's vision, dreamlike vision, but it was not a dream.
Yeah.
This was real.
Yeah. There was no waking. This was not a dream. He knows.
And I think the reason that it's dreamlike is because it's a fairy moment, isn't it? This is Faramir's brush with Lothlorien. This is the closest he comes, really, to entering Lothlorien, is seeing his brother in this Lorien boat. And I think that's why it's dreamlike for him. There might be other reasons. We can get into that, but
sure,
it's certainly, I think, proof that the some have said, or the it long was said, is the real deal.
I think so too. And it's one of those things where, like so many of these others, these other it was said or some have said, it's the thing you want to believe. You desperately want it to be true.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. If you told me that there's all these reasons to believe it's not true, this would be one where I'm like, sorry, no, I'm
going to hold out hope.
I'm still going to go with this one. I like this one too much.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. It is an amazing, amazing passage, and just reading that gave me chills. But
yeah,
we will go into that in more depth, obviously, next season. Very much looking forward to meeting Faramir. As I've said 1,000 times, my favorite character in The Lord of the Rings, possibly, and all of the legendary mix, maybe Finrod. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But
yeah,
for now, we get to do some poetry, don't we?
We do. Yeah, we had the news earlier in the intro segment. Now we get the weather.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick up with where you left off. For a while, the three companions remained silent, gazing after him. Then Aragorn spoke. "They will look for him from the White Tower," he said, "but he will not return from mountain or from sea." Then slowly he began to sing. Through Rohan, over fen and field where the long grass grows, the west wind comes walking, and about the walls it goes. What news from the west, O wandering wind, do you bring to me tonight? Have you seen Boromir the Tall by moon or by starlight? I saw him ride over 7 streams, over waters wide and grey. I saw him walk in empty lands until he passed away into the shadows of the north. I saw him then no more. The north wind may have heard the horn of the son of Denethor.
And then we'll skip a whopping 2 lines before I pick up. Then Legolas sang, "From the mouths of the sea the south wind flies, from the sandhills and the stones. The wailing of the gulls it bears, and at the gate it moans. What news from the south, O sighing wind, do you bring to me at eve? Where now is Boromir the fair? He tarries, and I grieve. Ask not of me where he doth dwell, so many bones there lie, on the white shores and the dark shores, under the stormy sky. So many have passed down Anduin to find the flowing sea. Ask of the north wind news of them, the north wind sends to me." And then we're going to go ahead and skip a couple more lines, and we'll have a special guest reader.
Then Aragorn sang again. From the gate of kings the north wind rise, and past the roaring falls, and clear and cold about the tower its loud horn calls. What news from the north, O mighty wind, do you bring to me today? What news of Boromir the bold, for he is long away. Beneath Amon Hen I heard his cry, there many foes he fought. His cloven shield, his broken sword they to the water brought. His head so proud, his face so fair, his limbs they laid to rest. And Rauros, golden Rauros falls, bore him upon his breast. O Boromir, the tower of God shall ever northward gaze. To Rauros, golden Rauros falls, to the end of days.
And as always, we have him read the last stanza whenever possible because we don't want to.
We don't want to follow that. That guy nails it every time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
Every time. I don't know. He's a little fast. He goes his pace.
He does. He was a fast talker, wasn't he?
He was.
It's always cool, though, to hear the poem from him, right?
Always.
We can put our own intonation on it. We can put our own rhythm. I mean, it's a poem, so it's got its own rhythm, but you know what I mean?
Well, right. It does have the rhythm.
We can put our own sort of emphasis on certain parts. We can kind of slow it down, speed it up as we want to. But hearing it from Tolkien, oh, man, it's just...
Oh, wow.
It's great.
It really is. It absolutely is.
Drinking straight from the source.
Let's take a look at the poem itself then, all right?
Yeah, let's do that. Do we want to talk about... Is there anything we want to say about Aragorn's intro? I mean...
Yeah, it's sort of a musical thing in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of... There is something kind of ritual about it, or kind of
yes,
kind
that's
of poetic
what I'm
or
looking for.
refrain-like about it.
Mm-hmm.
They will look for him from the White Tower, but he will not return from mountain or from sea. There's kind of a formulaic quality to that, and I think that's fitting
because we're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, there are some kind of formulas to this poem. There's some repetition and stuff, but I don't want to get ahead of myself.
We do that all the time. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment to talk about some of the features of this poem.
Yeah. I mean, well, first off, it's made up of rhyming couplets, right? We get long grass grows, the walls it goes. We get tonight and starlight, Moor and Denethor. But you also see alliteration as well. Leave it to me to spot that, right? We get the grass grows, we get the wandering wind, and many more besides. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, if you've read enough of like Old English alliterative poetry, or even Tolkien's alliterative poetry, like The Lay of the Children of Húrin or something like that, where it follows that very specific Old English pattern of alliteration, and he talks about this in, I think it's the appendix to Sir Orfeo and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight in Pearl.
Okay.
But he talks about like sort of the structure of Old English alliterative lines, and this is not that. This isn't traditional Old English style alliteration. This is just kind of a poetic, kind of a musical thing, kind of like we were talking about before with the prose passage before it. I think he's just doing it for musicality. I think another thing that's really interesting to me about it, though, is this repeated line that we see over and over again. This, what news from the blank, "O blank wind, do you bring to me?" And then there's, a time, tonight or at eve.
Yeah.
Now, you might be thinking that these two go together. I was actually thinking that at first. I was like, oh, okay, we've got wandering wind from the west. We've got the sighing wind from the south. And I'm kind of thinking like, oh, okay, so the adjective describing the wind must be alliterating with the direction in the stanza, right?
Right. I would have thought the same thing.
I thought, yeah, but no, if you look at the third verse has what news from the north, O mighty wind.
Yeah, maybe "O noble wind" would have confirmed your theory, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's not what's going on here in the pattern. But I did notice that there is still a pattern with the adjective that describes the wind, because the adjective describing the wind in each stanza serves as a theme for that stanza as a whole. So if you look at Aragorn's first stanza about the west wind, we get wandering wind. And so, well, what's wandering? Wandering is motion. Wandering is traveling. And you get that this first stanza is full of words about traveling.
That's true.
So we see saw him ride or saw him walk. We get a lot of descriptions of wide open spaces like fen and field, which alliterates, of course. The long grass grows, which also alliterates. We get empty lands. It's all these words about, you see all these sort of expansive vistas in this stanza.
True.
And sort of traveling a long distance over these spaces.
Well, and you're right, because the second stanza is the same way. With the sighing wind, we sort of get all these references to the sea. So we get, because it's an elf singing about the sea, we get words of sadness and mourning. We get the wailing gulls, and we get the moaning gates. This is a very different feel, just like that first stanza is all about the wandering and the paths and the walking around, right? Riding and walking in empty lands.
Yeah, sort of striding, traveling, ranging, to borrow something from last episode.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and I'm so glad that you called out the elfishness of that, right? Because you would expect an elf to think of the sea and sadness together. And that's exactly what we get here. Yeah. And of course, there's reason for mourning. This is an elegiac poem. This is a funeral. So of course there's reason for mourning and wailing and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's very significant that it's the elf who does this and that he does it in reference to the sea.
Yeah.
And then in the third stanza, you get Aragorn talking about the north wind, and the north wind is mighty.
Yes.
And so first of all, the north wind is the one that's actually seen Boromir, right? So they're asking all the winds, hey, have you seen Boromir? Do you have any news of him? The north wind is the one that actually has news of Boromir. And so I think that's significant, that the north wind is the one that has all these descriptions of might and valor. So it talks about Boromir and the foes he fought, or his head so proud. And again, it's all about his victory in battle. And again, going back to last episode, this is a victory despite his defeat, despite the cloven shield, the broken sword, despite his death, the victory that he had. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. But one question that I think might come to mind is, who is the song quoting? Who is this person that says, what news from the south do you bring to me at eve? Where is Boromir, right? What news from the north do you bring to me today? Who is saying this? Who is asking the various winds? It's somebody in Minas Tirith. I mean, the wind is walking about the walls. The wind is moaning at the gates, and it calls clear and cold about the tower. So we know it's taking place in Minas Tirith. Well, we read in the Treason of Isengard, which is the 7th volume of the History of Middle-earth, that the earliest version of this song is called Lament of Denethor for Boromir, and is very similar to this final version. I think we're looking at Denethor himself asking the winds for news of his son.
Oh, that's super cool. That's a great find. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, I've got something on the 7 streams here, because anybody who's read the Silmarillion, the first thing they're probably thinking of when you look at 7 streams is Assyrian, right?
Right, exactly.
But this isn't Assyrian, and I don't see 7 streams here.
No. And
we know the route that Boromir took from Minas Tirith to Rivendell, and there aren't 7 streams on the map that he'd have to cross. So what gives with this? Well, Hammond and Skull say that this seems to be a shadow of an earlier idea by Tolkien, never fully expressed. In an early text of A Journey in the Dark, Boromir suggests that the company take the road to my land that I followed on my way hither, through Rohan and the country of 7 streams. And on Tolkien's first map is entered the Grey Flood, Gwathlo, or 7th River. Now, both of these quotes that Hammond and Skull reference are in the Treason of Isengard. That's volume 7 of the History of Middle-earth. So it does seem like maybe there was some point at which he was thinking there would be 7 streams or 7 rivers on the way. But it's interesting because in Treason of Isengard, Christopher Tolkien actually discusses this there at length, and he says that he finds no solution to the puzzle.
Well, if he doesn't find a solution, there isn't one.
That's what I'm thinking, and I think it might just be, again, maybe some fragment of an idea Tolkien once upon a time had, but I think at this point it's really just kind of poetic language. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's just, there's something very satisfying about 7 streams, kind of like 7 seas, you know?
Yeah, it's alliterative for one.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's just, it does bring Osirian to mind. It kind of harkens back to that first age. Yeah. Now, Paul Coker in The Master of Middle-earth observes that Aragorn's grief for Boromir is notably tender and generous, his funeral lament heavy with a sense of loss. It is much more than a conventional elegy for a brave stranger. Boromir was a subject of Aragorn's and died on a mission to save the city they both love. The farewell song does not try to invest the dead man with virtues he never had, but simply pictures the sorrow of the people of Minas Tirith as they wait in vain for the return of the captain they hold dear. Now, that last sentence, in all fairness to Coker, he wrote this in 1972, so we didn't know that this was the lament of Denethor for Boromir, so he's talking about the sorrow of the people of Minas Tirith, which would have been a fair interpretation. Or still is a fair interpretation, really, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Now, one more thing on the poem as written. Hammond and Skull point out that Aragorn addresses the West Wind first, because Boromir rode into the West when he left Minas Tirith. Makes sense, right? The West is the land, the direction of immortality and all that good stuff. But one of our research assistants, Marilyn R. Pakila, tells us that the West is also the home of the ancestors and beloved dead in Irish tradition, and the traditional starting point for calling in the 4 directions. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in our P5 to this episode, so you can hear more there.
I'm sure we will. So then they return to Parth Galen, and this is the part that we're not reading, but Gimli says, I'm not going to speak of the East Wind, and Aragorn concurs. But I really like this. Gimli doesn't just ignore it. He doesn't pretend it doesn't exist. He says actively, I will not do this. This isn't one of the silent, I don't know what to do things. This is a very conscious decision on his part. And that makes sense because we can gather from this exchange that the East Wind is, well, I don't know, taboo may be the wrong word, but it's certainly not the thing you talk about, right? We'd expect them to endure the East Wind, but not to get too friendly with it or ask it for news, because that's the direction in which Mordor lies from Gondor.
That's right. And that explains the comment well enough, but there's actually possibly something else going on in Tolkien's mind here. Here's kind of a deep cut. I found this recently while reading The Drowning of Anduin, which is one of the unfinished versions of the Numenor story that's published in Sauron Defeated, History of Middle-earth, Volume 9. It's published alongside the Notion Club papers. And in that, we're told that the East Wind was associated with funeral rites among the king's men in Numenor.
Oh.
Tolkien actually writes in a note there, the custom of sending their bodies adrift to sea in an east wind grows up. And also he writes that the east wind begins to symbolize death.
Wow.
So it's possible that that was going on there as well.
Maybe
Tolkien, wanted to keep the east wind a little bit taboo. Maybe. I think that's not a terrible word for it. I think it's something that you,
Fair
like
enough.
you said, you just don't talk about it. You don't bring it up in polite company. We don't talk about the east wind here.
That's not drawing room fashion at all.
Not at all. But, fair point here. They don't really need to ask the east wind anything because the north wind has answered the question, hasn't it?
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, you're right. East wind, never mind. You're good.
Yeah.
We don't need you.
Yeah.
That's a fair thing. Now, I don't want to get too far afield in this, but I want to touch on one thing, have us discuss back and forth. No real points on this. I want to talk about this funeral versus the non-funeral for Gandalf. Right? I mean, some of them didn't even want to talk about it. They certainly weren't going to sing. Well, the elves were singing a lament, but Legolas wouldn't talk about it because the grief was too near. Of course, there was no burial because
there was
the body had fallen all the way down the very deepest pit of Moria.
Right.
But there was one similarity, impromptu poetry.
That's interesting.
Frodo and Sam, yeah. That's just interesting.
So is Tolkien telling us that that's what you need for a funeral, is impromptu poetry?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, I don't think seriously like that's,
No.
But I think that that's something that he's saying symbolically, is that,
maybe.
An elegy for the fallen is something that's appropriate at a time like this.
Yeah, it is.
And certainly in a work of literature that makes enough sense.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of the fact that they didn't even want to talk about Gandalf's death, and then, we deal so much with Boromir's death? I mean, is it because this is a man who's fallen in battle. I mean,
Immortal.
Gandalf fell in battle too, so.
Right, that's the thing.
Huh.
And I'm still not convinced that any of them knew that he was an immortal. They all knew that he was something different, but I'm still not convinced that any of them knew who he was, right? We had that question in our QAN.
Knew that he was a Maya or anything like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So to their eyes, of course, he was dead. There was no second chance. There was no coming back. And we can see that in their reactions in a few chapters. But yeah, I wonder if it's because with Boromir, I don't know, was there a difference in their relationship? Clearly. I mean, Frodo was so much closer to Gandalf than he would have been to Boromir.
Yeah, that's true.
Not that Frodo was here, but
right.
You get the idea that. So let's just take those three: Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli. Aragorn, we know, was
extremely close to Gandalf, much closer than he was to Boromir.
There's that passage about Gandalf having opened his mind to Aragorn. There was a lot of intimacy there as friends and as colleagues in the fight against Sauron.
For sure, yeah. But Legolas and Gimli didn't have any particular connection to either one of them. They would
yet Legolas was the one who talked about the grief being too near, right?
That's true, yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it's just because Boromir is more kind of on their level. He's more of a peer of theirs.
Yeah.
Even though they don't know what Gandalf really is,
they knew he was the leader. They knew he was the guy to follow.
And there was a majesty to him and there was a wisdom to him. And I think that kind of kept him on sort of a level above them.
I kind of wonder, though, if there'd been a body, would they have done something like this? Would they have done a proper funeral?
Probably. You like to think that they would. I mean, obviously, if there was a body, they would have done something with the body.
Well, we're right. They wouldn't have just left the body.
Right.
I didn't mean to imply that. Would they be all right, Gimli, go dig a hole and throw him in, or would they actually do a ceremony?
Maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's just he's lost and they don't have. I don't know. It's a very good question, though.
Yeah, and there's no answer to it. It's just an interesting discussion point. Yeah.
I think it either has to do with the fact that Boromir is a comrade who's kind of on their level and they kind of want to pay their respects to, someone who's more of a brother. Boromir was more of a brother in arms to them. I don't know that, even though they were all in the fellowship together, I don't know that any one of them ever would have seen Gandalf as like a brother or an equal. He was captain.
No, even to Aragorn, who was as close to Gandalf as any of them.
Yeah.
He would have been seen far and away as the leader, as the father, the mentor, teacher. He was the guide.
Or one more possibility, was it simply the fact that they knew they had to get out of Dodge before the orcs caught up to them? Because we know that was a consideration as well.
Yeah, but I'm thinking even in Lothlorien, once they were safely there.
Oh, that's true.
When they did the impromptu poetry.
That's true. Yeah, that's when that was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Even Legolas. Yeah.
I don't know.
That is a very good question.
Interesting stuff. And listeners, please, by all means, give us your opinions on that. We'd love to know that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Yeah.
Well, mentioning Frodo, of course, reminds me that when we get back to the text here, we're going to be talking about where did Frodo go? How do we know? But before we try reading the riddle of Frodo's disappearance, we wanted to remind you to visit our website, theprancingponypodcast.com, as we've made some pretty significant improvements recently.
We truly have. Now, we still have all the good stuff there. We've got our show notes and our outtakes. Outtakes page has actually recently been revamped. It's actually a lot easier to find them. It's a lot easier to just listen to a whole bunch of them at once. So,
it's great.
Great work by Phil there. Thank you, Phil. We've also got our Prancing Pony Ponderings and our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have there is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of different Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but at heart, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page with links to every book we've ever mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases that you make from those links, so thank you for your support.
Thank you. And we also want to remind you about something very exciting going on next summer that we've talked about a couple of times before. Solomon Schmidt, author of the History Bites book series, is hosting a spectacular 8-day tour of England and Scotland from the 2nd to the 10th of July, themed around J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and J.K. Rowling.
On this incredible tour, you're going to get to visit iconic sites related to the life and works of these English fantasy authors, including the Eagle and Child Pub, Platform 9 3/4, Oxford University, and C.S. Lewis's home.
Now, not only will you see these author-related locations, but you're also going to see world-famous sites like Big Ben, the Tower Bridge, Buckingham Palace, Edinburgh Castle, and Stonehenge.
You'll stand atop the majestic cliffs at Old Harry Rocks on the southern coast of England and take a stunning first-class ride on the Jacobite steam train through the beautiful Scottish Highlands.
You'll eat at some of the finest restaurants in the UK, too, and you'll even spend a night at the beautiful Hotel Miramar in Bournemouth, where Tolkien himself stayed.
Yes, he did. Unlike all those places where people say he stayed, he actually stayed
at that one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Solomon has put together this once-in-a-lifetime trip. You really don't want to miss out. Register for the tour today at historybites.com/tour. That's historybites.com/tour. And now let's scour the ground for clues with Aragorn as we finish the chapter. Sean, I'm going to go ahead and have you pick up as Aragorn's trying to figure out what's going on here.
Yep, I'm going to pick up right in the middle of Aragorn's dialogue here. We've already talked about the East Wind, so I'll pick it up after that.
Right.
But now Boromir has taken his road, and we must make haste to choose our own. He surveyed the green lawn, quickly but thoroughly, stooping often to the earth. No orcs have been on this ground, he said. Otherwise nothing can be made out for certain. All our footprints are here, crossing and recrossing. I cannot tell whether any of the hobbits have come back since the search for Frodo began. He returned to the bank, close to where the rill from the spring trickled out into the river. There are some clear prints here, he said. A hobbit waded out into the water and back, but I cannot say how long ago. How then do you read this riddle? Asked Gimli. Aragorn did not answer at once, but went back to the camping place and looked at the baggage. 2 packs are missing, he said, and one is certainly Sam's. It was rather large and heavy. This, then, is the answer. Frodo has gone by boat, and his servant has gone with him. Frodo must have returned while we were all away. I met Sam going up the hill and told him to follow me, but plainly he did not do so. He guessed his master's mind and came back here before Frodo had gone. He did not find it easy to leave Sam behind. But why should he leave us behind, and without a word? Said Gimli. That was a strange deed. And a brave deed, said Aragorn. Sam was right, I think. Frodo did not wish to lead any friend to death with him in Mordor, but he knew that he must go himself. Something happened after he left us that overcame his fear and doubt.
Something indeed.
Something.
Yeah.
Or someone.
Well, let's go ahead and walk through this, just as Aragorn is doing, right? He's reviewing the evidence. He starts by surveying the ground. It looks like the orcs have not been here. It's our footprints crossing and recrossing. And it heads down to the river, right?
I love the ranger stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he looks by the river. He determines that a hobbit went out into the water and back, but he can't tell when.
Right.
Takes a look at the baggage, sees the 2 packs missing, and of course he knows which one is Sam's because it's 4 times the size of everybody else's.
That's right. I can carry a bit more, Mr. Frodo.
Right.
He's like he's crawling on his hands and knees at like the pace of a sloth. I can carry a bit more if you need me to, master.
That's our Sam. Yep. So, yeah.
Merry and Pippin would like take a ride on his back. Oh, you can carry me then?
You can carry me, can't you? So, yeah.
I can't carry it, but I can carry you. Oh, no.
Too soon.
All right. So Aragorn reaches the only logical conclusion. Frodo went by boat, and Sam went with him. And really, smart Sam, right? I mean, he guessed what Frodo would do, and he got back here in time. And Gimli sort of asks the obvious question, why would he do that without telling us? I mean, that seems a little out of character, don't you think?
Yeah, and it is. But, Aragorn revisits Sam's line, kind of talks about how, Sam figured this out. He told us all this. And this is the line from the previous chapter about, the fact that Frodo wants to go alone. He doesn't want to take anybody with him.
That's right.
And so Aragorn concludes that something must have happened that overcame his hesitation to do that, his fear and his doubt. And we're going to talk a little bit about what some of those things might have been.
We will. In fact, I'm going to pick up exactly where you left off. Maybe hunting orcs came on him and he fled, said Legolas. He fled, certainly, said Aragorn, but not, I think, from orcs. What he thought was the cause of Frodo's sudden resolve and flight, Aragorn did not say. The last words of Boromir he long kept secret. Well, so much at least is now clear, said Legolas. Frodo is no longer on this side of the river. Only he can have taken the boat. And Sam is with him. Only he would have taken his pack. A choice, then, said Gimli. is either to take the remaining boat and follow Frodo, or else to follow the orcs on foot. There is little hope either way. We have already lost precious hours. Let me think, said Aragorn. And now may I make a right choice and change the evil fate of this unhappy day. He stood silent for a moment. I will follow the orcs, he said at last. I would have guided Frodo to Mordor and gone with him to the end. But if I seek him now in the wilderness, I must abandon the captives to torment and death. My heart speaks clearly at last. The fate of the bearer is in my hands no longer. The company has played its part. Yet we that remain cannot forsake our companions while we have strength left. Come, we will go now. Leave all that can be spared behind. We will press on by day and dark. Yes! Go, Aragorn! Make a decision! Yeah!
Yes, he's finally got his groove back. We talked about this in the last episode, man.
Totally.
He starts out, he's like, oh man, everything I do goes amiss. I cannot make a decision. He's lost all of his confidence. He's
really
scared.
has.
He's nervous. He's just feeling so down on himself. And finally, boom, he's got it back. This is great. This is one of my favorite moments in the entire book.
I agree. I
It's
totally
so
agree. Now we'll get
fantastic.
there. So let's back up a little bit. Right?
I know.
I know. We do that all the time. It's all right. Go ahead.
All right. So going back to the beginning of your passage, Legolas understandably suspects that orcs were involved, right? Maybe some orcs came on him and fled. Yeah, we know orcs were here. Okay, sure. Orcs were around, so maybe it was orcs. Aragorn, though, does not share the conclusion. Aragorn suspects.
Well, he has information that Legolas lacks.
He more than suspects, really. He doesn't say anything, which is pretty classy, I have to say. He doesn't say anything about Boromir's attempt to take the ring, but obviously he knows what happened.
Yeah, never speak ill of the dead.
Absolutely, yeah. And that would tarnish Boromir's memory, I think, to his companions.
Oh, absolutely.
And after the death and the sacrifice that he's just made, Aragorn knows that's the wrong thing to do. So yeah, he does keep this to himself, even though he knows exactly what happened.
Yeah, yes, he does. I like Legolas' logical observations here, right? Sam can't use a boat. And so therefore Frodo's the only one of the two who could have taken the boat.
Right.
Sam, though, is the only one of the two who would have taken his very large and heavy pack. Ergo, Frodo and Sam are gone and are on the other side of the river. I mean, I know it's basic logic.
No, but it is kind of like a logic puzzle. Like, okay, you've got one hobbit who can't pilot a boat, and you've got another hobbit who
won't pick up a big backpack.
I mean, it's not to say that he wouldn't, but he wouldn't.
Well, he wouldn't
because Sam would carry a backpack that's 4 sizes too big.
Right, that's true.
So Gimli kind of comes right out and says, okay, here's the information we have. Now we have a choice.
Right.
Do we take the other boat that's here and follow Frodo and Sam, continue on the quest for the ring, or do we go the other way, chase the orcs on foot to save Merry and Pippin?
No, you're right. Gimli busts out the flowchart right here.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, we've got the information. Now we've come to a decision point.
Yeah.
And I like this. Neither Legolas or Gimli are trying to make the decision. They're not voting, right? Gimli's not saying, I would do this.
Just what do we do?
Right. He's just saying, here's the decision that needs to be made.
Yeah.
Aragorn, let me think.
Yeah.
He wants to change the evil fate, right? We talked about this last week. This whole notion of fate, right? An evil fate is upon me this day. All that I do goes astray.
Yeah.
And we talked about that whole idea of fate versus free will.
And this idea that he has the ability to change his fate. I know I made fun of Thorin in the movie saying, like, we make our own fate or we make our own luck.
Make our own luck.
This is a little different from that. This is his ability to change the music, right? Because he's a man.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, this is all about free will and really just having the confidence to make the decision that you know you need to make.
Right, and make a decision and stick with it.
Yeah.
Be convinced of your own decision. And I love this. It's just a moment's silence and thinking, just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then he decides, I will follow the orcs. I'll follow the orcs.
Oh, that was lovely.
I'm trying to remember the rest of that song, but yeah. One day you'll look to see they've gone.
Very nice.
I'm trying to think of how to, tomorrow may rain, but that doesn't help. That doesn't help us at all. Tomorrow we run. So we'll follow the orcs. I don't know.
Not bad. Let's keep working on it.
Yeah. Not ready for prime time.
No, but let's keep working on it. That's all right.
I agree.
Good to work through it.
All right. And then, of course, we get that line that was adapted into the film, right? I'd have gone to Mordor with you, Frodo.
Well, I would have followed you to the very fires of Mordor or something like that.
That's the line. Yeah. Thank you. And he says that to Frodo in the film, but in the books, here it is. I would have guided Frodo to Mordor and gone with him to the end. But I love how we get it here in the book because he's comparing that to what he has to do. In the movie, we don't see that. It's like, all right, I would have gone with you, but you want to go by yourself? Go right ahead. Here it's, I would have gone with him, but to chase him now means letting Merry and Pippin face torment and death. Not going to do that.
Right. Yeah. And he understands. He understands that Frodo's fate is no longer in his hands, that the company has played its part, which is a short sentence, but a powerful sentence.
Yes.
This is truly the breaking of the fellowship. I know that was the title of the previous chapter, but this is it. This is Aragorn saying, okay, the fellowship is done. The company has played its part. It's an incredibly brave thing for him to decide, isn't it?
Yeah.
To say, okay, that chapter's over. We're moving on now. And we cannot forsake Merry and Pippin while we have the strength to follow them.
No.
Frodo is off doing his own thing, but we're going to go immediately. We're going to go after them, get Merry and Pippin, press on. And again, we talked about this before. He's finally ready to turn this day around.
Yes, he is.
The determination here, he doesn't even consider Minas Tirith anymore. It's not even...
That's amazing,
It's not even like, well, maybe...
Not on the table.
Yeah, exactly. It's either Mordor to go after Frodo and Sam or chase down the orcs that carried Merry and Pippin. It's not even, maybe I'll go to Minas Tirith. That's done. Not even a thing anymore.
No, not even on there. And that's huge. Remember, we've talked about that sacrifice.
Yeah.
You know, for him to say, I'm not going to go to Minas Tirith.
That was his thing. That was what he wanted to do from the beginning. And now it's not even an option anymore.
Got to unite the kingdoms.
Yeah.
I love, there's one more thing. I know we talked earlier, that quote from Coker about how, had Boromir not succumbed to the ring, and then he goes through all those things and we see the chain of events that had to follow. This is sort of another version of that comes from Hammond and Skull. This is really a good example of both interlacement and spabimi. That even though the events of the day appear evil, Hammond and Skull say, and I quote, they culminate in good. Frodo escapes from Boromir towards Mordor with Sam. Merry and Pippin come to the Ents and rouse them to action against Saruman. And Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, reunited with Gandalf, are led to Rohan in time to free Theoden, ally of Gondor, from the influence of Wormtongue. I just love that. This is that moment that if Aragorn doesn't make this decision, all those other things don't happen.
Yeah.
If they go after Frodo and Sam, Gandalf isn't reunited with them. They don't free Theoden. Saruman attacks Minas Tirith from that side after demolishing Rohan. It's over.
Yeah.
Once again, a single decision changes everything.
Not to mention just like the Sauron spidey sense of Aragorn and Legolas going into Mordor with Frodo and Sam. Hey, I'm not discounting Gimli here, but I mean, you're talking about like the heir of Isildur and Elendil and an elf, right? You think Sauron's going to feel them coming into Mordor.
Almost certainly, yeah.
The stealth that Frodo and Sam use to achieve their mission is not, it's not going to happen.
It only works for them.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think we talked about this before about when we were deciding who would go with him. I mean, maybe Gimli could have fit into some orc armor, but that's about it.
Yeah.
If you had sent Legolas, what's he going to do when they stumble upon all the, the orc armor that Frodo and Sam end up wearing?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been able to put it on. Too tall.
And also just the fact that Aragorn and Legolas probably would never have taken the pass of Cirith Ungol, right?
No, I think you're right.
That was kind of only because Frodo and Sam had no idea that Cirith Ungol means pass of the spider in Sindarin. If Aragorn or Legolas had been there, they would have been like, I don't think that's a good name. We're not going to take that way,
Right.
They just wouldn't have done it. So yeah, it happened the way it had to happen. And I think we've talked about this before, how Gandalf's death and everything that happens here, this confusion and chaos that we saw at the end of book 2, it all happens to set up the pieces the way they need to be set up for all this to play out. It's absolute Spabimi moment.
I agree. It really, really is. But I'm going to have you wrap up the rest of the chapter here with the departure of the 3 hunters. You want to pick up there?
Yes, I do.
Good. Because somebody needs to.
Somebody needs to. They drew up the last boat and carried it to the trees. They laid beneath it such of their goods as they did not need and could not carry away. Then they left Parthgalen. The afternoon was fading as they came back to the glade where Boromir had fallen. There they picked up the trail of the orcs. It needed little skill to find. "No other folk make such a trampling," said Legolas. "It seems their delight to slash and beat down growing things that are not even in their way." "But they go with a great speed for all that," said Aragorn, "and they do not tire. And later we may have to search for our path in hard, bare lands." "Well, after them," said Gimli. "Dwarves too can go swiftly, and they do not tire sooner than orcs. But it will be a long chase. They have a long start." "Yes," said Aragorn. "We shall all need the endurance of dwarves. But come, with hope or without hope, we will follow the trail of our enemies. And woe to them if we prove the swifter. We will make such a chase as shall be accounted a marvel among the three kindreds, elves, dwarves, and men. Forth the three hunters!"
Yes.
Like a deer he sprang away. Through the trees he sped. On and on he led them, tireless and swift now that his mind was at last made up. The woods about the lake they left behind. Long slopes they climbed, dark, hard-edged against the sky already red with sunset. Dusk came. They passed away, gray shadows in a stony land.
Oh man, getting chills.
Chills all over.
Yeah.
This is it, man. Again, I said it before. This end of this chapter is just one of my favorite parts of the entire book. This was the moment where I could not put the book down from this point on.
Aragorn gets his mojo back, you know?
He does 100%, and he shows his leadership and his determination. I mean, when he is able to make a decision, which he usually is, he just kind of,
Yeah.
he had a bad day, man. We all have bad days.
He had a bad day. Sorry.
It's been a rough day, man. And
So did Boromir, though, in all fairness.
he did, arguably a worse day. But yeah, I mean, he just kind of stumbled a little bit. And now he's got it back, and we see that leadership. This is the reason.
Oh.
And this is the reason why he is not just going to lead the three hunters, and that he's not just going to be a captain in the battles we're going to see. This is the reason why he is going to be king.
That's right.
This is it. This is that moment for him.
Absolutely right.
I love it.
So let's actually take a look through that passage that you read. So first, of course, they make the decision to put all the things that they don't need or can't carry over by the boat, and then they carry it to the tree line to sort of, hide it, I presume.
Right.
At least give them a little bit of extra time against any orc pursuers. And then they leave Parthgalen, and they pick up the scent of the orcs, or the trail of the orcs, near the glade where Boromir died.
Yeah.
Then they make some observations, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, all three of these guys have had some experience with orcs. Legolas first sort of bemoaning the fact that they just destroy everything in their path for no good reason.
Yeah.
Growing things that are not even in their way. It's not that they're destroying things to clear a path for themselves. They're destroying things because they destroy. That's what they do.
Destruction.
Yeah. They're nihilists, kind of like Melkor.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And again, I said this last episode too. I'm reminded again of that word Glamhoth. The noisy horde, the din horde. And yeah, that's the orcs. But Aragorn
sure is.
Pointed out that despite their destructive path that they carve through the countryside, they go at a great speed for all of that, and they have great endurance. They do not tire.
That's true.
Gimli says, we can do that too. Dwarves are fast too. We don't get tired easy.
So then, of course, we get Aragorn's dramatic moment.
Yeah.
The one that you and I both got chills over. Forth the three hunters. What an absolute moment this is.
Oh, I'm pumping fists, man.
I know, I was too. And you're like, oh, we shall make such a chase. Yeah, go get him.
Yeah.
I feel like I can run with him now,
And I love this thing he says where he says this will be accounted a marvel.
Yes.
It's a reminder, this is going to be put into accounts. This is going to be one of those things that people tell stories about. And oh man, that's so great. Because here we are reading that story.
As long as there are people around to tell stories,
right.
As long as we still defeat Sauron in the end. But yes,
we have to do that first.
I like this little bit that kind of is a blink and you miss it moment. On and on he led them, tireless and swift, now that his mind was at last made up. Now he's got his energy back. It's not just that confidence. This gives him strength.
Oh, you're right.
Real measurable strength.
You're right. Now that he's found that confidence, he now has sort of a physical strength. That's a spiritual strength and emotional strength. But
right. It's willpower is what it is. I mean, you think about what it takes as an athlete to run or to ride. I just, as we were recording this in late September, I finished watching the Tour de France recently, which normally held in July. This year, thanks to COVID, was held in September. And, you see these guys riding, 130 miles a day, getting on the bike and doing it again the next day. It's just insane. And you realize it does take an immense amount of willpower to push yourself. And that's what we see here. Aragorn now has that confidence for him to push himself, to run at a pace and over a distance that is pretty unreasonable, as we'll find out. Éomer is very much taken aback. You did what now?
Right.
You ran from the where now when? I mean, that's not possible, right? Did you catch a taxi? Did you cheat? How did you get here?
Right.
It's not that it actually gives him physical strength. It's that it gives him the willpower to push himself.
And you're absolutely right about that. And we will see in the next chapter how theirs isn't the only will that's at work.
No, that is correct.
That's pretty cool.
And then, of course, they pass away into the land. I love this line. Like a deer, he sprang away. Well, here's the thing. Like deers, granted, old, slow deers, we're about to spring away ourselves.
That's us.
That is us. Kind of hobbling away from the hunters,
Yeah.
But not quite springing away, because it is almost time for Bartleman's bag. But even when that's done, of course, the talk continues all night long at the Prancing Pony.
That's right. Our incredible listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you'll find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And we also have some really good discussions going on over at Reddit. Now, you can find us there at r/Prancing Pony Pod.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please consider sharing us and consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Mm-hmm. And if you want exclusive content, postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, and coming soon, episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/prancingponypod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's see what messages Bartleman has brought us. Sean?
Well, first up, Murray N. from Washington asked us, after King Eärnur's disappearance in Third Age 2050 and Gondor's rule passed down to the stewards, why did it take so many generations of Isildur's heirs to regain the throne? Shouldn't this have happened immediately? Or is the outcome just good for the sake of the story? Well, it certainly is that, but let's talk about the why a little bit more. Alan, why don't you start us out on this one?
Be happy to. First, let's go ahead and give some background for those not familiar with the story. Now, Murray mentions Eärnur's disappearance, which was in Third Age 2050. But why didn't they make a claim even before that? Well, let's go back to Appendix A for The Lord of the Rings, Annals of the Kings and Rulers. First, let's look at the North Kingdom of Eriador and the Dunedain. Let's go back to the beginning of the Third Age, shortly after the defeat of Sauron and Isildur's capture of the One Ring. Appendix A3 tells us that after Elendil and Isildur, there were 8 high kings of Arnor. After Eärendil, owing to dissensions among his sons, their realm was divided into 3, Arthedain, Rhudaur, and Cardolan. The line of Isildur endures in Arthedain, but dies in the other 2 realms, and, not surprisingly as a result, there's strife between them.
Yep.
Lots of fighting proceeds, and eventually, the Witch King of Angmar came down upon Arthedain before winter was ended. He captured Fornost and drove most of the remaining Dunedain over the Lune. Now, while King Arvedui evaded capture for a while and ended up with the snowmen of Lossoth for a bit, he was eventually killed, and with him, the appendix tells us, the North Kingdom ended, for the Dunedain were now few, and all the peoples of Eriador diminished. Yet the line of the kings was continued by the chieftains of the Dunedain, of whom Aranarth, son of Arvedui, was the first. Arahil, his son, was fostered in Rivendell, and so were all the sons of the chieftains after him. And there also were kept the heirlooms of their house, the ring of Barahir, the shards of Narsil, the star of Elendil, and the scepter of Enumenes. When the kingdom ended, the Dunedain passed into the shadows and became a secret and wandering people, and their deeds and labors were seldom sung or recorded.
All right, so that's what happened in the north. Now let's take a look at the southern kingdom, Gondor. We learned from Appendix A4 that there were 31 kings in Gondor after Anarion, which was Isildur's brother, of course, who was slain in the siege of Barad-dûr. Near the end of that line was a king by the name of Anduin, and he and his sons were slain in battle against the Wainriders of the Easterlings in the Third Age, 1944. The text then tells us that, on the death of Anduin and his sons, Arvedui of the North Kingdom claimed the crown of Gondor as the direct descendant of Isildur, and as the husband of Firiel, only surviving child of Anduin. The claim was rejected. In this, Pelendur, the steward of King Anduin, played the chief part. The Council of Gondor answered, "The crown and royalty of Gondor belongs solely to the heirs of Meneldil, son of Anarion, to whom Isildur relinquished this realm. In Gondor this heritage is reckoned through the sons only, and we have not heard that the law is otherwise in Arnor." To this Arvedui replied, "Elendil had 2 sons, of whom Isildur was the elder and the heir of his father. We have heard that the name of Elendil stands to this day at the head of the line of the kings of Gondor, since he was accounted the high king of all lands of the Dunedain. While Elendil still lived, the conjoint rule in the south was committed to his sons. But when Elendil fell, Isildur departed to take up the high kingship of his father, and committed the rule in the south in like manner to the son of his brother. He did not relinquish his royalty in Gondor, nor intend that the realm of Elendil should be divided forever."
That's right. Now, Gondor doesn't respond to this claim, and instead gives the crown to Eärnil, a captain of Gondor who was of the royal house. Now, we learn that Arvedui didn't go after his claim specifically because he had neither the power nor the will to oppose the choice of the Dunedain of Gondor. As we learned earlier, he would be the last king of the North Kingdom, and only one king followed Eärnil in the south, Eärnur, who would end up accepting the Witch King's challenge to single combat, only to disappear forever. And that's when the stewards took over.
That's right. So why does nearly 1,000 years pass between Eärnur's disappearance in Third Age 2050 and Aragorn's ascension to the throne in Third Age 3019? Well, maybe it's because nobody else had the power or the will any more than Arvedui had, but...
Right.
But one possibility is hinted later in Appendix A, in the tale of Aragorn and Arwen, where we read that Aragorn's true name and lineage were kept secret at the bidding of Elrond. For the wise then knew that the enemy was seeking to discover the heir of Isildur, if any remained upon earth. Elrond knew that Sauron was searching for the heir of Isildur and was protecting them through secrecy all this time. Kind of hard to be secret if you're going to go around claiming thrones.
That's a good point.
Now, when Aragorn finally does make that claim, it's not just because he thinks he ought to be king. Check out this passage from the Council of Elrond that comes right after Aragorn explains his secretive role as a ranger. He says, "But now the world is changing once again. A new hour comes. Isildur's bane is found. Battle is at hand. The sword shall be reforged. I will come to Minas Tirith." That's him saying he knows it's finally the right time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's confident. This is not just, well, I've been waiting to be king, so now I'm going to go and be king.
Mm-hmm.
This is the time to make the claim. This is the time to say it. Yeah. But there is a practical thing to this as well. After Arvedui's claim was denied, it was clear that Gondor wasn't going to accept just anybody as king. They gave the crown to the victorious captain Eärnil, suggesting, as was the case with many actual historical realms, that a royal bloodline isn't as important as military success, as long as there's some connection, as there was for Eärnil. The line, as Denethor would later say, bereft of lordship and dignity, would never have their claims accepted as king without restoring some of that lordship and dignity, which is precisely what Aragorn did by leading the host to the west, bearing the sword reforged, showing that he had the healing hands of a king, which of course fulfilled prophecy. Aragorn is really the first candidate from the northern line since Arvedui with the track record to back his claim.
I mean, that'll do it. You know, it's like, okay, let's see. I've borne the sword reforged. I've got the healing hands of a king. I've led the host to the west. I've fulfilled prophecies. Is there anything else you need me to do before you will let me wear this crown?
Right, exactly.
What else you want me to do, Gondor?
Come on now.
So, yeah, I mean, he backed it up, man. He totally backed it up.
Yeah, he did. News reports from Minas Tirith indicate that Aragorn has gained 67% of the popular vote and will be inaugurated as king next week. All right.
I think that's it. It's like he just,
yeah,
it's really that backing it up part.
It is.
I think you nailed it. You know, you can't just have the blood. You have to actually be a leader. And when you're dealing with these declining realms, which the North Kingdom was, and the South Kingdom, really, I mean, they're both in decline. It was going to take somebody special. It was going to take special deeds to back up, you know, the bloodline. And so that's what we get in Aragorn. And I just think there wasn't really the opportunity before that.
No.
It wasn't like, you know, the great challenge of the age hadn't really appeared yet. And so here it is in the War of the Ring, and Aragorn's the one to rise up.
Yes, he is.
Now, I do have to have a little fun with this, though. You got to wonder,
okay,
or at least I have to wonder, maybe you don't have to, but I'm going to.
All right.
If anybody had come along to claim the throne of Gondor,
Uh-huh.
You know, the Witch King was still around. You think you think the Witch King would have just knocked on the doors again and said, like, hey, hey, Gondor, I'm going to challenge your king again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you like to send your king out to single combat with me?
I think we've learned our lesson on that. Tell you what, you send back the first one and we'll do that.
At least send back pieces of him. And we'll talk.
Oh my
But with
goodness,
nothing,
that's
no,
terrible.
we're not doing anything.
Yeah. Oh, man. Arvidui's like, I don't want that crown now.
Right.
I don't want to be king down. I don't want to single combat that guy. No.
I have to fight who? No, I'm not doing that.
What?
Yeah. Talk about not rising to the challenge.
The Witch King's putting on his Instagram, right? You know, he's got like pictures of the post-combat with the former king of Gondor.
Hashtag previous king. Hashtag you're next.
Hashtag the king is dead. Long live the king. The king is dead. Again.
Hashtag come at me, bro.
Come at me, bro. I love it. Woo.
So anyway,
man.
Awesome question, Murray. Thank you very much. And I hope that helps answer it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, do we have time for one more? I feel like we do.
You know, I think we do. I actually think we do. Mitch B asks another Aragorn question. I know Aragorn has the hands of a healer, but where did this power come from? When Elros chose a mortal life, was there something in his blood that conferred healing powers, which was then passed on to his descendants? Or is it just superior knowledge and faculty with plants like Athelas? His interaction with the dying Faramir makes me think it's more than just knowledge that gives Aragorn his healing power. Sean, why don't you go ahead and get us started on this one?
Okay, will do. So let's go to the Houses of Healing in Book 5 to find the answer for this one. Imrahil and Éomer have just returned from the field of battle, and Éomer is expecting to find the bodies of his uncle and his sister. And in that moment we read this. And when they came forth, evening had fallen, and many stars were in the sky. And there came Gandalf on foot, and with him one cloaked in grey. And they met before the doors of the Houses of Healing. And they greeted Gandalf and said, We seek the steward, and men say that he is in this house. Has any hurt befallen him? And the Lady Éowyn, where is she? And Gandalf answered, She lies within, and is not dead, but is near death. But the Lord Faramir was wounded by an evil dart, as you have heard, and he is now the steward, for Denethor has departed, and his house is in ashes. And they were filled with grief and wonder at the tale that he told. But Imrahil said, So victory is shorn of gladness, and it is bitter bought if both Gondor and Rohan are in one day bereft of their lords. Éomer rules the Rohirrim. Who shall rule the city meanwhile? Shall we not send now for the Lord Aragorn? And the cloaked man spoke and said, He is come.
Sorry, that was another Goosebumps moment right there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, can you imagine you're in the room and you're like, oh, don't we need to send for like the guy who's pretty much the king?
Where's Aragorn? Maybe we need to get Aragorn. He's like, I'm here.
He has come.
Boom.
Yeah! Anyway, sorry. That's just one of those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So glad we didn't say all those things we were going to say about you being late all the time. And they saw as he stepped into the light of the lantern by the door that it was Aragorn, wrapped in the grey cloak of Lorien above his mail, and bearing no other token than the green stone of Galadriel. I have come because Gandalf begs me to do so, he said. But for the present I am but the captain of the Dunedain of Arnor, and the Lord of Dol Amroth shall rule the city until Faramir awakes. But it is my counsel that Gandalf should rule us all in the days that follow, and in our dealings with the enemy. And they agreed upon that. Then Gandalf said, Let us not stay at the door, for the time is urgent. Let us enter, for it is only in the coming of Aragorn that any hope remains for the sick that lie in the house. Thus spake Ioreth, wise woman of Gondor, The hands of the king are the hands of a healer, and so shall the rightful king be known. So not only do we have the prophecy that Ioreth spoke about the hands of the king being the hands of a healer, we have Gandalf himself. Gandalf the White, mind you, not little old Gandalf the Grey.
Yeah, this is G2.
Gandalf 2.0, saying that the only hope for the sick is the coming of Aragorn.
Wow.
Not me, Aragorn, this guy.
Not me, who was just in the presence of Iluvatar, the creator of all.
Who came back from the dead with even more power than I had before.
Right. It's this guy.
And the offspring of the thought of Iluvatar. No, I can't do this. this dude can.
Yeah, this mere mortal can.
Clearly, Aragorn has got some healing power beyond what even Gandalf possesses, and that's significant.
Yeah, he's got some juice here for sure.
He does.
But one of the things he also has is the Elisar itself. That's the elf stone given to him by Galadriel. Now, if we go back to Unfinished Tales and look at the origin stories for the Elisar, one of them, we read that the hands of one who held it brought to all that they touched healing from hurt. So there's something there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want us to pay attention to Aragorn's mentioning of his names. He mentions Elisar, the Elfstone, but he also mentions Envinyatar, the Renewer.
Yes.
Now, this is the only place in the Lord of the Rings where this name is used, and I don't think that's an accident. So there's something there.
I agree. He renews lots of things, certainly, but the fact that it's mentioned here means that, the healing renewal is a really big part of this.
And this may be a physical renewal. It may be the spiritual renewal that the people who've been affected by the Black Breath need, because that's clearly not just a physical attack, right?
Yeah.
Now, he also does have, as Mitch points out, a ton of knowledge about athelas and other medicinal herbs, to be sure. But here is the clincher that tells us for sure that this is in his bloodline. When he looked at Faramir, then Éowyn, then Merry, Aragorn said, "Here I must put forth all such power and skill as is given to me. Would that Elrond were here, for he is the eldest of all our race and has the greater power."
Yeah.
So this comment strongly suggests, actually just flat out says, there is a power in the half-elven, even those of Elrond's line.
Yeah.
What say you, Sean?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. And I think it makes sense that the half-elven would have some special abilities that aren't possessed by others in Middle-earth. I mean, this is a very special family in the Middle-earth Legendarium. They are a particularly ennobled branch of the children of Ilúvatar. Now, I can't give you an answer as to why, like what's the scientific reason or the supernatural reason specifically. I think it's just kind of pure awesomeness, and maybe it has something to do with Melian, but I don't know, maybe that is the reason, but I can only speculate. And again, we're reading Tolkien, and the wise don't really matter. We're not going to get the wise. It's just
that's true.
It's just a magical thing, but I think that's it. I think it is a result of the fact that they are this special branch of the children of Ilúvatar. They have this ennoblement, and one of the gifts they have is the gift of healing.
I agree.
Now, we have talked about Athelas a few times. I do have a little footnote here on Athelas that I don't think impacts the answer here, but I just think it's interesting.
That's what we do. We bring in interesting things. Yes.
That's what we do. We bring in interesting stuff. That's why I say it's a footnote. It's worth noting that the use of Athelas to heal does seem to have been an ancient family secret that goes all the way back to Luthien. Do you remember in the story of Beren and Luthien when they're attacked by Celegorm and Curufin, and they're trying to kidnap Luthien, they're up to all kinds of shenanigans, and Beren takes an arrow in the chest from Curufin. He was actually shooting at Luthien, but Beren takes the arrow. Well, in the Silmarillion, we're told simply that Huan brought to Luthien a herb out of the forest that she used to heal Beren.
Yeah.
But if you look at the Lay of Leithian, there's a note on this section where Christopher tells us that his father actually wrote Athelas in the margins of the manuscript here.
That's right.
Now, that's really interesting because in Fellowship, Aragorn actually says that Athelas was brought to Middle-earth by the Númenóreans. Now, maybe it was in Beleriand, brought to Númenor, and then brought back by the Númenóreans. We don't really know.
Right. That's kind of what I would think, yeah.
But it does seem clear that Tolkien intended this family to have some healing arts in their family heritage, maybe some healing skill in their blood as well. I mean, again, I think the answer here really goes beyond Athelas, but I do think it's also quite telling that Tolkien makes Luthien a healer with the use of Athelas, the same herb in the British pronunciation that Aragorn uses later. So
peaches and
that's
why it's always herb to me. Otherwise it's peaches and herb, and I don't
Herb Alpert.
Yeah, Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass.
Exactly. Yeah.
Herbie, the movie about the Volkswagen Beetle,
and Herbie Hancock.
Well, yeah, you gotta have Herbie Hancock. Now I'm hearing Herbie Hancock music in my head, but you can't sing that. It's an instrumental. But anyway.
Rocket, that's a classic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. But please be sure to join us again next week when we come with a strange suddenness upon the grass of Rohan.
I have a feeling it's going to take us a little bit longer to get there than the 3 hunters will, fortunately.
Yeah, just a bit.
Well, first we want to take a moment to thank our patrons at the Círdan's contributions here. That's James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy in North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, and Brian from the UK. Thank you all so very much for your support.
Thank you. And we also want to thank the team that helps make this show better. Research assistants Tanya Pleshkova and Marilyn R. Pakila, along with our barliman, Becca Davis, audio engineer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show truly would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so really, thank you all. Now, folks, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing, as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, your funeral songs for us to Barliman, theprancingponypodcast.com. Wow, that's dark.
That is dark, man. Oh,
man.
That's like one of those like science fiction premises. Like, do you want to see your own funeral? Like, oh, no, I don't think I do.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I don't want to know how people.
And I really don't want to know what these
people will think of me. Yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. No.
I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
To be clear, folks, I'm not talking about all of you. I'm talking about the people in our... This is one of the episodes we record live in front of our Discord audience, and there's, I don't know, 40 or 50 of our closest friends who have probably already written funeral songs for us, actually.
Those are the ones he's talking about.
They can keep them to themselves, but the rest of you send them in. All right.
Well, folks, Barliman's a lot more reliable these days, but we do get a lot of mail, so we will get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
And as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time,
farewell, friends.